First movement up, we've got a single arm pull down. So you can see that the benefit of having the Cybex Bravo here is I don't need to kind of like adjust the bench from side to side depending on what arm I'm trying to work. I can just literally have this center pad down and I literally press myself up into this pad, use my opposite hand to brace out, have the handles both in the same point up here. Whatever side I'm working, obviously, I just kind of shift myself to that side. And then from here, I think about crunching down to that side. And this goes for whether you're doing it on a Bravo or a normal cable stack. Crunch down to that working side, keep that left shoulder still. And I'm thinking about driving this elbow down towards my pocket or base of spine. There. As I come up, nice and slow, get a good stretch at the top on the lat, drive down. As you see, as I'm coming up, I'm not letting myself rotate forward like this. And as I come down, I'm not rotating through the shoulder like that. As soon as you start rotating like this, you're using other muscle groups to help move that weight. The intent here is lats. So there. And then literally come onto the other side, shift myself across. Helps if I put the weight on the right fucking one first. Another thing to note is look at my grip. So this is neutral. As you can see from there, neutral, palms facing in. Then you've got supinated, palms facing up. I'm coming semi-supinated, so somewhere in between the two. Thumb over grip, treat your hands like hooks. And then again, crunch down to that working side, drive an elbow down towards my pocket. Beautiful movement. Right, warm up's done, onto the working set. So last time I did this session here was 3 weeks ago. So I've had a deload, and then the other 2 pull sessions have been at, oh, look at the tricep in this lighting, jeez. The other 2 sessions have been at gains in St. Neots. So I'm just gonna try and maintain the numbers that I did last time. So I did the stack plus 5 kilos for 8.5. So if I can get 8 here, or even 9, that'll be a big win. Give me some motivation, guys. Here we fucking go. Hey. Oh, yes. Oh my word. That exercise is so good. But we've got 9 reps. Come on, boy. That's the power of a deload. And like I said in the last video, just feel like I've got that pop back now, that power. So if you're ever wondering at what stage do I take a deload, to be honest, the majority of people watching this probably aren't training hard enough to warrant a deload just yet. But if you're quite confident that you are able to take all of your sets to failure, then you may get to the point at every 8 to 12 weeks in your training plan where fatigue is quite high, and you can just tell that because you don't feel the same sort of energy in your workouts. You're not progressing like you usually are, and this is where your logbook comes in handy. And at that point, sorry, just continuing, you know, sleep might be affected, appetite might be affected, general mood, lethargy. Just all of these things are signs that you are quite fatigued and maybe need to pull back. And you can do one or two things. You can either take a complete week off or do a de-volume week where you still train but do half the amount of volume and don't take all of your sets to failure. So maybe leave 1 or 2 reps left in the tank. Do that for a week and you'll be good to go. So we just trained lats. Now we're going to do some upper back on the low row. And this is a great machine. However, it's taken me a while to kind of get the correct positioning. And yeah, I would, to be honest, I would prefer a T-bar over this. Just for me, it feels better, but the T-bar flares up that muscle that's been bugging me around my left scap. So this has been swapped in. I've been running it for a while now. It's good, but like I said, I prefer a T-bar. So The position that I found works really well for me is I shift my hips back in the seat, lean up into the chest pad like this, hold the handles here, and then I'm just thinking about rowing my elbows back past my torso, trying to flare them out tight. A good cue to think about this one is pinching your shoulder blades together at the top, and as you come down, allowing your shoulder blades to push apart. Nice. Okay, on to the working set. Last time I did 95 for 8, I think. So I'm going up to 100. See how many I can get here. So you might notice something I do with the majority of my exercises is I do what's called like a top set, back off set kind of approach, where the top set tends to be the heaviest set and you usually do that first. And it makes sense to do that because you've got the most amount of energy and the least amount of fatigue at that point of the workout. And then the back off set doesn't mean you back off the intensity at all. Every set is to failure still, but you just back off the weight, hence the name back off. You still take that set to absolute failure, but you know, the rep range of the first set might be anywhere from 5 to 10, and then the back off might be like 10 to 15-ish. It's quite a good way to make sure that you're maximizing that mechanical tension by doing the lower rep set, and then you're going for the more pumpy kind of set, or one that's going to create the most amount of metabolic stress, as they say, in the second back off set, so worth giving a try, definitely. But main thing to consider is just take every set to failure. Doesn't really matter if you do 8 to 12, 10 to 15, fucking 15 to 20. As long as you take every set to failure, you're going to be getting the benefit. So on to the Cybex, even, I was about to say Nautilus, pullover machine. Just one set here. Rep range is 15 to 20. 2-second pause in the stretch, 1 second pause in a contracted position. This set is probably one of the most painful on the training plan. Tends to be anything that's over 15 reps is the most painful, just because you get the greatest build-up of lactic acid and blood. The pump just feels excruciating when you get to those higher numbers, but especially with the tempo changes. And something that Kieran is a big advocate of is kind of pausing in the change in direction. So at the top, I've got a pause here, at the bottom, I've got a pause. So if you're kind of struggling to feel a movement or don't feel like you're getting the benefits from it from a muscle building standpoint, add pauses in end ranges, whether that's in the short position, in the lengthened position, in both even. Just add a pause in, trust me. I guarantee if you add pauses in, slow the movements down, you're going to get a much, much better connection with that muscle. And just remember, it's not about moving the weight from A to B. We're not fucking power lifters. Well, if you're watching this, you're a power lifter. I don't know why you're watching my channel, but we're trying to build muscle, so it's about slowing things down, adding in pauses, using the intended muscle to move that weight from A to B. Right, enough waffling, let's get into it. There's one there. Fuck knows how many that was. Oh my goodness. My lats are on fire. Ooh. If you haven't got this machine at your gym, by the way, a couple of good replacements you can do instead is, firstly, a rope pullover, where ideally you want 2 single ropes to make a longer rope. and you just kind of do that pullover motion, or you can do a dumbbell pullover where you lay sideways across a bench and then have the dumbbell pulling over like this. So if you want to give this a try and don't have the machine, give those two variations a go. Okay, onto the assisted pull-up machine. This is a fantastic movement that I don't see many people use really. I think it's very underrated, and if you've got an assisted pull-up machine in your gym, I would definitely recommend using it, even if it's just, you know, doing one set, 15 to 20 reps. That's what I'm doing. The rep range is 10 to 20. Usually I do it with D handles to allow for a little bit more freedom of movement at the wrist and elbow joint. But with D handles, this hits the bottom in that stretch position. So I'm just gonna run it now without, and still gonna get the benefits. If you're really going for like an optimal movement, then I would recommend doing it with D handles. But if you can't get full range of motion, then it's probably not ideal. Straps. On that point, in my opinion, any pulling movement or movement that requires you to hold heavy weight out in front of you. So an example, something that's not a pulling movement, an RDL, I guess you could call it a pulling movement, or maybe a Bulgarian split squat where you're holding a dumbbell. Use fucking straps, because your forearm is always going to give way before the target muscle does. Like the Bulgarian split squats, the aim is to train your legs, not your fucking forearm or grip strength. If you want good grip strength, yeah, but it's like ultimately comes down to, what do you want, bigger legs, or bigger forearms, or better grip strength? And in my opinion, if you want better grip strength or bigger forearms, train those separate to your normal training. So add in some maybe wrist curls, do some grip strength training work, but don't limit your growth by not using straps. Oh, that fucks me up every time. Jesus. 11 reps, which I think is the same as last time, but last time I did it with D handles and I feel like my tempo was better there, so that's a win. And that's another point actually. Progressions don't always come in the form of adding a rep or adding weight. A progression can still be improving your form and technique on a movement. So don't be overly concerned with consistently adding reps or adding weight to the bar every single week. If your form needs to be tidied up a little bit, which most of the time, it does, focus on better tempo, better technique, and that is still a form of progression. Okay, so next movement up, we've got a cable rear delt fly. Now for me, I prefer this over a normal reverse pec deck because you can get a better elbow path. And for me, I'm not a big fan of the normal pec deck, the reverse pec deck. So yeah, like I said, because you can have the cables in a top position, you can kind of come down at this sort of angle, which is arguably more favourable for the rear delts. And for me, I just get a better connection on this, so I run with it. Now, I haven't done any warm-ups, but I'm going to jump straight into my working sets because at this point in the workout, I'm already pretty warm. And I've done this movement a lot, so I already know kind of like the setup, how to connect to it properly. But, you know, as a general rule of thumb, I would say you always need like at least 1 or 2 warm-up sets for most people. But for me, like, I'd call myself a pretty advanced trainer. And like I said, I'm pretty confident with this movement now, so I can just kind of like come straight to it, jump on, just get started. I'm already pretty warm, like I said, we can just get moving. So you'll be able to see here as I start, my elbow path is coming at a slight downward angle. And I'm thinking about moving my arms out to the side, not back. So I'm thinking about relaxing my traps down like this. And if you watch, I'm thinking about moving my arms as wide as they can, not back. There. Nice straight arm. Pause at the top, pause at the back. you know something I just realised I forgot to do? Use the bloody chest pad. This is the good thing about the Bravo. You've got this chest pad that comes up in the middle. So with a movement like this, I can just lean into this. Helps increase stability. So if you can get more stable in a movement, you're going to be able to generate more force, which means either move the same amount of load for more reps or do more load, move more load. So when you're doing movements in the gym, think about increasing stability. So, you know, get that pad tighter to your legs. Using a pad like this, bracing with your hands. Depends on the movement, obviously, but think more stability, more force. Okay, now on some additional side delt work, because you can never have side delts that aren't big enough. I'm basically training side delts on the majority of days except for leg days. So we've got here the free motion cable. You can see, similar to the other video, set the cable position so the challenge comes in that lengthened position. And then I'm thinking about coming out as wide as I can. There. Motherfucker. I'm not gonna lie, that was a terrible set. I don't know what happened there. This is my first time trying this particular movement without doing it cuffed, because what I was finding is if I was adding a cuff on these balls, the balls were clashing at the bottom position here, and I couldn't get my side delts fully lengthened. So I've just tried it just holding on to the balls instead, which allows me to get more range of motion at the bottom, but also feels quite uncomfortable. So I'll give it a try for the rest of the session and see how it goes, but I might swap back to cuffs. We'll see. Right, on to the arm work. And this is probably my favourite tricep movement at the moment. It's quite hard to do if you don't have this cable stack, but I guess you could do something similar single arm if you wanted to, but the idea is have a cable in a high position like this, and then from here, keeping your elbows in a fixed position, coming up, nice pause in that stretch position, getting as much elbow flexion as possible. See that? I cannot get my arms, or my hands, sorry, any further back than that. If I start to move my hands further back, my elbow starts to move. So think about that when you're going through, when you're doing tricep movements. Max elbow flexion to max elbow extension. This is elbow extension, this is elbow flexion. Here. Usually I would do a single arm cable curl at this point, but I'll be honest with you guys, I get a bit bored when it comes to arm training. You know, it's usually at the end of the workout, I'm tired, it's hard. I'll be honest, I don't really like the pain of training arms either, especially triceps. So every now and again I like mixing it up, and I fancy doing some dumbbell curls today. So we're gonna sling some heavy dumbbells around and get the 17s here. But just like with any bicep movement, keep your elbow still, pick a weight that's heavy enough, and take it to down failure. You fucker. Boom. So that is going to wrap it up for today's pull, delts and arm session. Decent overall. Feel like I've got that pop, that strength back, like I said at the start of the video. Progression's pretty much across the board, which is good. Like I said in the last video, I'm not really tracking the smaller muscle groups at the moment, like side delts, arms, calves. I'm just making sure I stimulate that muscle. I'll make a note of the weight that I use, but not the reps. I'm not too overly concerned, but again, like I said in the last video, I'm just making sure that I'm stimulating the muscle, using intensifiers, drop sets, rest pause sets, partials, to really just fuck up those muscles, because they can recover a lot quicker than the bigger muscle groups. So they can afford to be kind of like pounded a little bit more. But hope you enjoyed the video, took a lot of value from it. If you're enjoying this type of content, let me know. I appreciate comments, support. And as always, if you ever need help with your training, your nutrition, whatever, DM me on Instagram. If you're interested in coaching as well, you can click the link below. There'll be an application form. We can have a chat on the phone, free consultation call, go over the process, talk about prices, how I can help you, and whether you're going to be a good fit for the team. And yeah, we'll leave it there. Have a good day, have a good week, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.